Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you this beautiful little jacket. Now you can make this jacket any size. The way you do this pointed star to get these sections like in this picture, I'm going to show you how to make the two sections that's going to make up this beautiful little jacket. Now I just need to stitch down my collar. I've put a button on. You don't need a button. It's up to you. You don't need to fold the collar down. You can leave the collar up if you want. Now if you want longer sleeves, you can put a few more of the granny cluster rows on the sleeve once you've got it stitched together. Now it is only in two pieces. That is the back piece. So you've got this section and this section. And I'm going to show you how to make this beautiful little jacket. So I'll show you what I made this with. I made it with two of these. I'm going to show you how to make these. This is it a hexagon? A hexagon? Hectagonal? It's a 6-pointed star. It's like a granny square, but it's got 6 corners. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. And when you fold it, you need 2 of these. And when you fold it, look at this. It makes a sleeve and a body. Now this one's white and I'm going to use a green yarn so that you can see the stitches better when I show you how to do this. Now this cardigan is really easy. That's all it is 2 of these. Now if you're a beginner, it might be a little easier if you get yourself some stitch markers. You're going to need 6 just to mark out the corners, just if you're a beginner, just so that you don't get lost. So we're going to do a magic circle. I put the tail end of the yarn in my hand and wrap the yarn around. Just wrap it and cross it over. Put your hook under that one and pull your working yarn through. Then do 1 chain. You can do a chain of 4 and then join it into a little circle and work into there. Now we're going to do this granny stitch, and the granny stitch is 3 UK treble crochets, and if you're in the USA, these are 3 double crochets for you in each set of granny stitch. So from now on I'm going to call it a granny stitch, and you'll use 3 of either UK treble crochet or USA double crochets. So my first one is going to be my chain of 3. So I've got a stitch there, 1 more and 1. That makes 3. Now that's my first stitch for my first cluster of granny stitch. So yarn over and go into your magic circle and do another one. That's 2 and 1 more is 3, and that makes up your granny stitch. Now what you're going to do is you're going to chain 2. We need 6 of these clusters with chain 2s in between. So chain 1 and 2 and go in there again and do a granny stitch, and that is 3 of your UK treble crochets or 3 USA double crochets and 1 more, and that completes that granny stitch. So we're going to chain 2, 1, 2. So we need 6 of these clusters. And 3. That's my third cluster done. I'm going to chain 2, 1, 2. Now if you're a beginner, what you can do is put a stitch marker through those chains of 2 so that on the next round you're not going to get lost, and you know where your corners are going to be. These are all going to be corners. These are going to be the corners of the 6 points. So I've done a chain of 2 and I'm going to do one more granny cluster. 1, 2 and 3, and chain 2, 1, 2. I'm going to put a marker in that one. We should end up with 6 markers and 6 chains of 2. So I'll do my next cluster. 1, 2 and 3. I'll put a marker in that one. Once you get this bigger, you won't need the markers. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I need one more. I need 6 clusters and 6 chains. So chain 2 and put my last cluster in. 1, 2 and 3. Chain 2. I'll put my marker in that one there. Now I'm going to pull the tail end of my magic circle and pull it in tight. And that's why I like the magic circle. It pulls it in really tight. Now I've got my last chain of 2 here, and I'm going to slip stitch into the top of that first chain of 3 that we did and pull through. Now I would put a marker in there. So you've got 6, because we've got 6 points to this. This hexagon's got 6 points. I'm going to take that one back out just now. So I'm going to do the next round. I'm going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to turn my work around. So that's my first stitch of my cluster. Now into these chains, you're going to put a granny cluster, 2 chains and another granny cluster. So that's the first stitch of my cluster. 1. So into that chain space, that's 2 and 3. So that's my first granny cluster done. Chain 2 and into that chain space again, put another cluster. 1, 2 and 3. So I'll put my pin back in there. If you're a beginner, put the pins in. If you're not, you don't need to put the pins in. What I'm going to do is I'm going over to this one here. I'll take my pin out and I'm going to do the same. 1 granny cluster, 2 chain and 1 granny cluster. In that chain, we're making these points. So 1, 2, into that chain space, and 3, chain 2, 1, 2, and into that chain space again for my second cluster. And 3. So I'll put my pin back into that chain of 2 just to keep it marked, and then I'll take this one out. We're going to the next chain. We'll put 1 granny cluster, 2 chain and 1 granny cluster. Move over to the next chain space and do the same all the way around. So you should still have 6 points, and each one of them has a granny cluster, 2 chain and 1 granny cluster. Do the last cluster in this chain here. So one granny cluster, 1, 2, that's 3 stitches, chain 2, 1, 2, and back into there for the second part of that granny cluster, 1, 2, and 3. Now you can put back your markers if you want. You can put your markers back in to mark the spaces. Now into the chain of 3, I'm going to slip stitch in, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to turn my work around. Turn your work around, and I'm going to work into this chain space. So now we're going to work into the 2 chain spaces for your corners, and we're going to go into this single space in between, and we're going to build our clusters like this. Now there's all the points on the first half of my little cardigan, and that's the corners, and in between your corners you're going to be building in to the spaces in between, just like you do on a normal granny square. So I've been turning mine so it doesn't matter when I fold my cardigan which way it goes. So into this space, that's my stitch, that's stitch 1. So into that space I'm going to put 2 more, 1 and 2, and that's that granny cluster done. So I'm going into the corner. Now you can, if you're a beginner, keep using your little markers in these corners so you don't get mixed up with them. Into this chain space. So that's put my first granny cluster in, 1, 2 and 3, chain 2, 1, 2, and do my other one. So this is my point. I'm not going to call them my corners anymore, I'm going to call them the point. So that's the point done, and I'll put a pin in just to mark it, just so you can see. Now into the space next to it, I'm going to do 1 granny cluster, no chains, just 1 granny cluster. Pull my yarn up. Now I'm using green yarn just so that you can see it better with that background. So I'm going back to my next point, so that's your next point there. And we're going to do another point. So 1 granny cluster, 2 chain, and 1 granny cluster. So 1 cluster, 2 chain, and 1 cluster into the same chain space. Now to get this to go into that cardigan shape, you've got to have 6 points. 5 points don't work. You've got to have 6. So we've got a space here in between. That's my next point there. So I'm going to put 1 granny cluster in there. Just the same way you do when you make a granny blanket. 1 into there. So I'm going to, this is my next point. It's got my chain of 2. So you know your points because I've got chains of 2. So do my cluster, 1, no chains, just a cluster, and I'm at my last point. So we'll build the new point, that's 1 cluster, 2 chain, and 1 cluster. Chain 2 and put my next cluster in the same space. Now we're going over. This is the cluster we started with. So in the chain of 3, just slip stitch into that chain of 3. And that one gets in that chain. And this is what you've got. You've got your 6 pointed star almost. I'll tuck that end under there a little bit neater. So you've got your 6 points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Now you'll notice my next row we're going to have 2 spaces in between the points. So we'll put a cluster in that space and a cluster in that space. And then we'll build the next point. And that's 1 cluster, 2 chain and 1 cluster. That's what you'll do in the points. In between in these spaces you'll just put 1 cluster. No chains, just 1 cluster in each space. So the next row, and these are the rows, you'll just keep repeating this row until yours is as big as you want it, because when you've got it done to the size you want and you fold it in half to make this L shape, you fold it in half and lo and behold you have a sleeve and you have half a body. That's the back and the front. Now the reason I've been turning when I do a round is so it doesn't matter which way this folds. As long as you fold it in half, you take that top point down to this point and you fold it in half so it's an L shape like this. And that's your sleeve and that's the body. Now you'll do that until it's as big in the body as you want. You can always add extra rounds in for the sleeves. And we will make another one of these white squares and we'll sew it down the back. So I'll show you one more round on this. And then you can continue and make your hexagon as big as you need it to be if it's for a child. I've done, this one should fit a year old, and I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11. I did my centre circle and then 11 rounds. And that should fit a year to a year and a half, like from 1 to 1.5. You can do smaller ones, but you will have to add a few rounds onto the sleeves. So you're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, turn your work around, and we're going into the space. So that's my first stitch of the cluster. Into the space, that's 2 and 3. The reason I'm turning my work, it's easier to get to the space rather than slip stitching along to that one, and you'll end up with a little line there that's very, very visible. But if you do a chain 3 and turn, you can get straight in to the space. So I'm at a point. I'm going to take this out, just drop it down there, and I'm going to build a new point. So 1 cluster, 2 chain, 1, 2, and 1 more cluster in that space. Now if you're a beginner, you can put your marker back in so you don't get confused between your chain space and this space. So you can put your marker back in. Now we've got 2 spaces before we get to the next point. So we're going to put a cluster in here, no chains, just go straight in and put your cluster of 3 and then across to the next space. 2 and 3. So I'm at my next point, so I'll take my marker out. I'm going to build a new point. one cluster, 2 chain and 1 cluster. Chain 2 and 1 more cluster. And put my marker back in. Now I'm going to do that all the way around. So it doesn't matter which way you turn it around, it's the same. It's got your 6 points on it. So what you'll do with your next round is chain 3 and turn your work, and you'll work into the space and work your way around. And your next round, chain 3, turn your work and work into the space. It's a lot easier to work into the space that's here than to work your way across the top into the space over here. What you'll do until yours is as big as you need it to be, so that when you fold it, it makes this L shape. Now the first time you try to fold it, it might make a different shape like this, but just do it, get it corner to corner so that it makes this square like this. That's your arm, that's the arm, and that's the body. And you'll make another square for this side, and you'll sew up the back. You'll sew down, halfway down there. We'll leave a part open for the neck. I'll show you that when I've got my next square done. So I've got my 2 6 pointed stars made. I've got the 2 of them done. Now you'll make these as big or as small as you want them to be. You can make these really big into an adult size. And you just keep doing your rounds and then try it over your shoulder. You will add extra to the body if you need an extra length to the sleeves. Now the magic of this is what we have. Now you're going to fold it. Just fold it up. 2 points here, 2 points here. Fold like this. And it should fold into this pattern. And there you go. You've got a sleeve and half a body. Now I'll show you that again. So it doesn't matter which way you do it. You've got a point here, 2 points here. Just take a point and bring it up in half. Now if you take the wrong point, you'll get kind of the wrong way. So just usually it's if you've got 2 points, fold it in half like that. I'll show you that one more time. So you've got a straight edge like this, 2 points, take these 2 points and fold it in half like that. And we'll do it one more time. So you've got your 6 pointed star, just flatten it. You've got 2 points, take your next point and this one and fold it in half. And it will go like that. Now I've got a sleeve and a body. So you want to open it so it opens like that. We'll do our other one. So just lay it flat and then take your next point across to this one. So you've got 2 down here. You've got 2 there and 2 down here. Now just take these 2 in the middle and fold them in half. Turn it around just so it matches into that one. So you've got your sleeves. It opens up like this. Now we're going to sew the back. I'm going to go into the second stitch in that chain, and on this one I'm going to go in through the second stitch on that side. and just sew it in. I'll sew my tail end in as I go. So I'm going to go in through the next stitch and the next stitch on this side. Keep it flat. I'm going to keep my tail end in. I want to stitch in over my tail end. Then the next stitch, and do that all the way up. Take the next stitch on this side and the corresponding one on this side, and work your way up and stitch your back together. Tuck my tail in and through the next stitch all the way up. So I'm nearly at the top and I've matched this stitch for stitch. Now into the chain, I'm going to join the chain together as well, these chain 2 stitches in through my last one, and you get this really nice flat stitch. You get a nice flat join. Now, so I'm going to go just about 3 inches, 3.5 inches, and 3.5 inches that way. Now I'm going to mark it. Make sure your corners are together and your stitches are lined up. Then I'm going to measure about 3.5 inches and pin it together. And I'm going to sew this edge up. I'll do the same here. Match up your corner and your stitches so it's nice and neat. You should be able to do a cluster to a cluster. Just match it up. Then I'm going to measure 3.5 inches this way. It's about there. So we've got 1, 2, 3, the middle of the 4th cluster, 1, 2, 3, and through the middle of the 4th cluster. And I'm going to sew along there and along there, and that's going to join my sleeves. Now we're going to go through stitch for stitch again. Take my pin out. And I'm going to go through the stitches. And that's going to keep my seam flat. You can turn it inside out and do this. So through that one and through that one. And what that's going to do is it's going to stitch it like you did with the back. So at the end, I'm just going to go through the chains just to keep the edge of my sleeve nice and straight through those 2 chains. Match it up. And we'll just finish off the end. Now you can do it like this and then turn your cardigan around the right way. It's my little flat seam. I'm going to turn it inside out or outside in. So my seams are on the inside. The back's nice and flat. And that is your cardigan almost finished. Now, if you want, you can add some rows in these clusters, in the spaces. Just go into your chain spaces and you can put a few more rows on. If you want a longer body, do the same. Start in the corner and just work around, chain 3 and work back in the chain spaces to make the body bigger. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to neaten up this collar. I'm going to neaten the collar up. Got my yarn. So I've got my hook, and what I'm going to do is right here in the chain space, in the first chain space, pull my yarn through, and I'm going to do a UK double crochet all the way around the collar. This is a single crochet if you're in the USA. So I'm going to go into the next stitch and pull through, and I'm going to put one stitch into each of the stitches around the collar, just to neaten the collar up. Now you can put a button on, and that gives your little cardigan a nice round collar, a nice straight edge collar. Now you can either pin your corners down and then put a button here if you want. You can keep it up here and you can put a button on and button it through here. It's up to you if you want to put buttons on. I like that, actually. It looks really pretty down like that. And that's my sleeves. Now if you need longer sleeves, just do a few rounds around your sleeve. But this is perfect for my granddaughter. This is perfect for my granddaughter. A nice little jacket, a nice warm winter jacket. Because I've done this in a weight 4 yarn. That's an Aran yarn. And that's it. That is how you make a little cardigan out of your hexagon. I'm sure it's a hexagon, or is it a hectagonal? A hexagon. A six-sided sort of granny square, and you just fold it, and then there you go. You've got a beautiful cardigan just done in 2 pieces. Beautiful. So thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed already. The subscriber number helps your channel to be seen a little bit more, and I don't get paid for anyone who subscribes. It's completely free to subscribe to the channel, to any YouTube channel. And if you click on the bell icon, YouTube will tell you when I put up another tutorial. So until the next time, remember you can make this any size you want. You can continue and make it into an adult size. So until the next time, happy crafting, and I'll see you all again soon. Goodbye.